3 years after the woman he loved tried to kill his mother, Justin Miller received a letter from prison, and the words inside shattered everything he thought he knew about that day. He almost didn't open it. The envelope sat on Justin's kitchen counter for 2 days, postmarked from Cedar Junction, Audrey's name in the corner. He walked past it every morning, every evening, pretending it wasn't there. 3 years had passed since that hospital room. 3 years since he'd watched them take her away in handcuffs. 3 years of rebuilding a life he thought he understood. Michelle was strong now, healthy, back in her own place. And Justin, for the first time since that day, had started to let someone in again. Sarah, a therapist he'd met through his grief counselor. Kind, patient, real in ways Audrey never was. But the letter changed everything. Justin finally opened it Thursday night, alone, the city glowing below his window. 3 handwritten pages. Audrey's voice, raw and desperate in ways he'd never heard before. And buried in the middle of her apology, one sentence that stopped his heart. "Your mother wasn't just sick, Justin. She was being poisoned." The pages slipped from his hands. Because if Audrey was telling the truth, if any of this was real, then someone else had tried to kill his mother first. Someone who was still out there. Someone who might try again. But before we continue, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me where in the world you're watching from. Because sometimes the truth we think we know is only the beginning. Justin called Detective Ramirez at 7 in the morning. She answered on the 3rd ring, voice thick with sleep. "Miller, what's wrong?" "Audrey sent me a letter. She's claiming my mother was poisoned before the incident, that she found a vial of digoxin in Michelle's hospital room." Silence. "Detective, I'm coming to you. Don't touch the letter again." She arrived within the hour, jeans, sweatshirt, badge on her belt. Justin handed her the letter, sealed now in a plastic bag. Detective Ramirez read it slowly. When she finished, she looked up. "You believe her?" "I don't know." She set the letter down. "We ran a full tox screen 3 years ago. Came back clean. But if someone stopped before she was hospitalized, digoxin clears the system in about 36 hours. Ramirez leaned back, thinking. If they timed it right, we'd never find it. Justin's chest tightened. "It's also possible," Ramirez continued, her voice careful, "that Audrey's building a parole defense, manufacturing doubt, making herself look like a victim instead of an attempted murderer." "I know, but you're not sure." Justin shook his head. "I was sure about her 3 years ago. I was wrong about everything." Ramirez studied him. "I'll look into it. Pull hospital records, interview staff. But don't tell your mother yet. Not until we know more." After she left, Justin sat in the silence of his apartment, staring at nothing. If someone had poisoned Michelle, if someone wanted her dead badly enough to be patient, careful, calculated, then saving her once wasn't enough. They might come back, and this time he might not see it coming. That night, Sarah noticed immediately. They were at dinner, their usual place, quiet corner table, candles between them. She'd been talking about her day, but Justin couldn't focus. "You're not here," she said gently. He looked up. Sarah's eyes were warm but direct. They'd built something honest together over 8 months. She deserved the truth. "I got a letter from Audrey." Sarah's expression didn't change, but her hand stilled on her wineglass. "What did it say?" He told her. The poisoning claim, the vial, Detective Ramirez, and underneath it all, the fear that maybe he'd been wrong, that maybe Audrey had been drowning instead of calculating. Sarah was quiet when he finished. Then, "What do you think?" "I don't know what to think anymore." "Do you think she's lying?" "Maybe. Probably." Justin's voice cracked. "But what if she's not?" Sarah reached across the table, her hand covering his. "Justin, even if she was broken, even if she was in crisis, what she did was still a choice. Mental illness doesn't erase that. And whatever else is true, you saved your mother's life that day." He wanted to believe her. "But there's something else," Sarah said, her voice dropping. "If someone really did poison Michelle, they're still out there." The words hung between them. Justin had spent 3 years trying to move forward, trying to heal, trying to trust again. And now the past was rising up, pulling him back into a nightmare he thought was over. His phone buzzed. "Detective Ramirez," he answered. "Did you find something?" "I pulled the hospital records." Her voice was tight. "Justin, there were 3 visitors, logged for your mother the week before the incident. You, Audrey. And someone who signed in as A. Miller. Justin's blood went cold. I don't have any siblings. I know. Who was it? That's what I need to figure out. But Justin, Ramirez paused. Whoever they were, they visited your mother alone, 3 times, and the nurses don't remember them. Justin's hands started shaking. Someone had gotten to his mother, someone who used a fake name, someone who disappeared before anyone thought to look. Sarah was watching him, her face pale. There's more, Ramirez said. I talked to the hospital pharmacist. A vial of digoxin went missing from their supply 2 weeks before your mother was admitted. They wrote it off as a clerical error. Justin couldn't breathe. This wasn't random, Ramirez continued. This was planned, careful. And if Audrey's telling the truth about finding that vial, if she really did stumble into someone else's crime, then we need to figure out who A. Miller is, fast. Justin ended the call, his mind racing. Someone had tried to kill his mother 3 years ago. Someone, patient, methodical, invisible, and they were still out there, watching, waiting, maybe planning to finish what they started. Justin told his mother the next morning. He'd promised Detective Ramirez he'd wait, but sitting across from Michelle at breakfast watching her butter her toast, humming softly to herself, he couldn't keep it from her. Mom, we need to talk. Something in his voice made her set down her knife. What happened? He told her about the letter, about the digoxin, about someone signing into the hospital as A. Miller and visiting her 3 times. Michelle's face went pale. Do you remember anyone unusual visiting you that week? Justin asked. Anyone who seemed off? She was quiet for a long moment, her hands trembling slightly around her coffee mug. I was so sick, sweetheart. There were so many nurses, so many faces. I barely remember anything clearly. Try, Mom, please. Michelle closed her eyes, reaching back. There was a woman, I think. She came in one afternoon when you were at work. Said she was from patient services, checking on my comfort level. What did she look like? Older, maybe 60, short grey hair, kind smile. Michelle's eyes opened. She asked me questions about my medications, about my care. I thought she was just being thorough. Justin's stomach dropped. Did she touch anything? Your IV? Your medication? I don't. Michelle's voice cracked. I don't remember. Justin, what if she... Don't. He reached across the table, gripping her hand. Don't go there yet. We don't know anything for sure. But they both knew. Someone had walked into that hospital room, smiled kindly at a sick woman, and poisoned her. That afternoon, Justin sat in his office, staring at 3 years of financial records spread across his desk. If someone wanted Michelle dead, there had to be a reason. Money, business, revenge. He started with his company's competitors, executives he'd undercut, deals that went south, partnerships that ended badly. Nothing stood out. Then he looked at personal enemies, ex-girlfriends before Audrey, business associates who felt cheated, people he'd fired over the years. Still nothing. His phone rang. Sarah. Hey, he answered, his voice flat. How's Michelle? Scared, trying not to show it. Sarah was quiet. And you? Justin leaned back, pressing his palms against his eyes. I don't know how to protect her from someone I can't see. You're not alone in this. You know that, right? He wanted to believe her. But 3 years ago, he'd trusted Audrey to sit with his mother. He'd trusted his own judgment. And he'd been catastrophically wrong. Justin, listen to me. Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. Whatever's happening, you didn't cause it. You're not responsible for other people's evil. Then why does it keep finding us? She didn't have an answer for that. Detective Ramirez called an hour later. I got the security footage from the hospital. 3 years old, but it's something. And the woman who signed in as A. Miller kept her head down every time she passed a camera, like she knew where they were. But I got one partial shot, enough to run facial recognition. Justin held his breath. Nothing came up. Whoever she is, she's not in the system. No criminal record, no driver's license match. Nothing. So we're back to nothing. Not nothing. I'm working a theory. Ramirez paused. Justin, is there anyone in your mother's life, past or present, who might benefit from her death? Old friends, distant family, anyone with a grudge? My mother doesn't have enemies. She's the kindest person I know. Sometimes that doesn't matter. Sometimes people want things that someone else is standing in the way of. Justin's mind went blank. His mother had nothing, no wealth of her own, no property except the house he'd bought her, no connections to powerful people. Unless... His breath caught. "What?" Ramirez asked. "You thought of something?" "My father," Justin said slowly. "He left when I was 7, walked out on us. Mom never asked him for anything, no child support, no alimony, nothing. She just let him go." "You think he'd come back after 40 years to kill her?" "I don't know. But Mom inherited her father's estate when he passed away 5 years ago. It wasn't much, maybe 200,000. But she never told anyone about it except me." "Where's your father now?" "I have no idea. Haven't spoken to him since I was a kid." Ramirez was quiet. Then, "I'll find him." After she hung up, Justin sat in the silence of his office, a chill running down his spine. His father, a man who'd abandoned them without looking back. Could he really come back decades later to take the one thing Michelle had left? And if he could, what else was he capable of? Detective Ramirez found him in 48 hours. Marcus Miller, age 72. Living in a suburb outside Philadelphia under his own name, working part-time at a hardware store. "He's been there for 6 years, Ramirez said over the phone. "Quiet life, no criminal record, pays his taxes." Justin gripped his phone tighter. "Did you talk to him?" "Not yet. I wanted to ask you first, do you want to be there when I do?" Every cell in Justin's body screamed, "No." But he heard himself say, "Yes." He didn't tell Michelle where he was going. Just kissed her forehead that morning and said he had meetings in Philadelphia. She smiled, told him to drive safe, and went back to her crossword puzzle. The lie tasted bitter. Justin drove 3 hours in silence, his mind spinning. The last time he'd seen his father, he was 7 years old, watching through the living room window as Marcus loaded a suitcase into his car and drove away without looking back. Michelle had cried for weeks. Justin never did. He'd just gone quiet, turned all that abandonment into fuel, studied harder, worked longer, built an empire to prove he didn't need the man who left. And now, 40 years later, he was about to face him. The hardware store was small, tucked between a laundromat and a diner. Detective Ramirez was waiting in the parking lot when Justin arrived. "You ready?" she asked. Justin nodded, though he wasn't sure that was true. Inside, the store smelled like sawdust and paint. An older man stood behind the counter, ringing up a customer. Grey hair, reading glasses, flannel shirt. Justin's breath stopped. It was him, older, smaller somehow, but unmistakably the man who'd walked out of their lives. The customer left. Marcus looked up, ready to greet the next person. His eyes met Justin's, and something in his face crumbled. "Justin?" The sound of his name in his father's voice felt like a punch. Detective Ramirez stepped forward, showing her badge. "Mr. Miller, I'm Detective Ramirez. I need to ask you some questions about your ex-wife, Michelle." Marcus's face went pale. "Is she okay?" "That's what we're trying to determine." Ramirez's voice was measured. "Can you tell me where you were 3 years ago? Specifically, in April? 3 years ago?" Marcus looked between them, confused. "I don't why. Just answer the question." "I was here, working. I've been here for 6 years. I haven't left Philadelphia." "Have you had any contact with Michelle Miller during that time?" "No, none. I haven't spoken to her in 40 years. Justin's voice came out cold. "Why would you?" Marcus flinched. "Justin, Did you know she inherited money?" Justin cut him off. "From her father, 5 years ago." Marcus's face shifted genuine surprise. "No, I didn't know that. You expect us to believe you just happened to stay away all these years? Never once thought about coming back for a piece of what she had?" "I didn't know she had anything." Marcus's voice cracked. "And I left because I was a coward, not a thief." "Then why did you leave?" The question hung in the air. Marcus looked down at his hands. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "Because I was drowning. Your mother was so strong, so capable, and I felt useless next to her. Every day, I felt smaller. And instead of being a man about it, instead of working through it, I ran." Justin's jaw clenched. "I've regretted it every day since," Marcus continued. "I thought about reaching out 1,000 times. But what was I supposed to say? Sorry, I abandoned you both. Sorry, I was too weak to stay. That would have been a start." Marcus looked up, tears in his eyes. "I know. And I'm sorry, Justin. I'm so sorry. But I swear to you, I didn't hurt Michelle. I wouldn't. I loved her once. I still—" His voice broke. "I still think about her. Wonder if she's okay." Detective Ramirez watched him carefully. "Can anyone verify your whereabouts 3 years ago?" "My boss. My landlord. I haven't missed a day of work in 6 years." Ramirez nodded. "I'll need their information." She stepped outside to make calls, leaving Justin alone with his father. The silence stretched between them, 40 years of it, thick and suffocating. "You look just like her," Marcus finally said. "Your mother. You have her eyes." Justin didn't respond. "I heard you did well for yourself. Built something big." "No, thanks to you." Marcus nodded slowly. "You're right. Everything you are, you got from her, not me." Justin turned to leave. "Wait." Marcus's voice stopped him. "If someone hurt Michelle, if she's in danger, please protect her. She deserves that. She always did." Justin looked back at the broken man behind the counter, and for the first time, he didn't see a villain. Just a coward who'd spent 40 years living with his shame. Outside, Ramirez was ending a call. She looked at Justin. His alibi checks out. He was working the day those hospital visits happened, time-stamped employee records. Justin exhaled slowly. "It's not him," Ramirez said, which meant the woman with grey hair, the one who'd smiled kindly at Michelle and poisoned her, was still a ghost. Still out there. Still hunting. Justin drove back in silence. His father's face burned into his mind. Not the villain he'd imagined for 40 years. Just a weak man who'd run from his own shame and never found the courage to come back. It didn't make Justin forgive him, but it made him human. Sarah was waiting at his apartment when he got home. She'd let herself in with the key he'd given her 2 months ago, a decision that had terrified him at the time. "How'd it go?" she asked, setting down her book. Justin collapsed onto the couch beside her. It wasn't him. She didn't say anything, just took his hand and waited. "He's just broken," Justin finally said. "Spent 40 years working at a hardware store, living alone, carrying the weight of what he did. And I wanted him to be the villain so badly. I wanted it to be simple. It never is." Justin leaned his head back, staring at the ceiling. "If it's not him, then who? Who would want my mother dead?" Sarah shifted, tucking her legs beneath her. "What if it's not about your mother at all?" He looked at her. "What do you mean? What if she's just in the way of something? Or someone?" The thought had crossed Justin's mind, but hearing Sarah say it out loud made it real. "You inherited everything when your grandfather died, right?" Sarah continued carefully. "The estate went to Michelle first, then eventually to you. Yeah, but it wasn't much. A couple $100,000, some land upstate she's never done anything with. Land? 40 acres, woods mostly. My grandfather used to hunt there." Sarah's expression shifted. "Justin, have you checked what that land is worth now?" He hadn't. 2 hours later, they sat at Justin's laptop. Property records spread across the screen. The land Michelle inherited wasn't just woods anymore. A development company had been buying up surrounding parcels for the past 3 years, paying premium prices, big money. The kind that turned quiet forest into luxury estates. And Michelle's 40 acres sat right in the middle. "They can't develop without her land," Sarah said quietly. "She's blocking the entire project." Justin's chest tightened. "Has anyone approached her about selling?" "I don't know. Has she mentioned anything?" He called Michelle immediately. She answered on the second ring. "Justin, it's almost midnight. Mom, the land upstate. Has anyone tried to buy it from you?" Silence. "Mom, there was a woman," Michelle said slowly. "About 4 years ago. She came by the house. Said she represented a development firm, made a very generous offer. What did you tell her?" "I said no. That land was your grandfather's. It felt wrong to sell it." "What did she look like?" "I don't. Older, I think. Grey hair. Very polite." Justin's blood went cold. "Mom, did she come back? After you said no?" "Once or twice. The last time was." Michelle paused. "Right before I got sick. She called, said the offer was still open. I told her I wasn't interested. And then you ended up in the hospital." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Justin, you don't think. I think you need to stay with me for a while. Pack a bag. I'm coming to get you." "Justin, you're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared." An hour later, Michelle was in his guest room. The door locked, security system armed. Sarah had stayed, refusing to leave them alone. She made tea while Justin called Detective Ramirez, explaining what they'd found. "I'll pull records on the development company first thing tomorrow," Ramirez said. "Get names, financials, see who's behind it." When Justin hung up, his hands were shaking. Sarah handed him tea. "She's safe now." "Is she?" Justin set the cup down without drinking. "Someone poisoned her, Sarah. Came into her hospital room 3 times and poisoned her. They didn't care that she was sick. Didn't care that she almost died. But she didn't die. You saved her. And now what? We wait for them to try again?" Sarah sat beside him. "No. Now you let Detective Ramirez do her job. You keep Michelle close, and you stop carrying this alone." Justin looked at her, this woman who'd walked into his shattered life 8 months ago and stayed when most people would have run. "Why are you still here?" he asked quietly. "What? You know what my life is. The mess, the danger, the woman in prison who tried to kill my mother. Why haven't you left?" Sarah's eyes softened. "Because I see you, Justin. Not your money, not your success, not even your trauma. Just you. And you're worth staying for." Something in his chest cracked open. He pulled her close, holding on like she was the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting beneath him. "I'm terrified I'll lose you too," he whispered. "You won't. You can't promise that." "No," Sarah said softly. "But I can promise I won't leave by choice. Whatever comes, we face it together." Justin wanted to believe her, but he'd believed Audrey once too, and that belief had almost cost him everything. Detective Ramirez showed up at 8 in the morning with a file folder and a grim expression. Michelle was still sleeping. Sarah had left an hour earlier for work, making Justin promise to call if anything happened. "Tell me you found something," Justin said, pouring coffee. Ramirez opened the folder. "The development company is called Pinnacle Ridge Holdings, registered in Delaware, which makes tracking ownership complicated. But I dug deeper." She slid a document across the table. "The CEO is a woman named Helen Vance, 63 years old, gray hair. Fits your mother's description of the woman who approached her about the land." Justin stared at the photo clipped to the page. Professional headshot. Kind smile. The face of someone you'd trust. "She's got a clean record," Ramirez continued. "No arrests. Successful career in real estate development. On the surface, she's legitimate. But 3 years ago, Pinnacle Ridge was hemorrhaging money. They'd bought up all the surrounding land for this development project, took out massive loans, and your mother's 40 acres was the last piece they needed. Without it, the whole project dies. They default on loans worth $30 million. Justin's stomach turned. So, she had motive. Strong motive. Ramirez pulled out another page. "I compared the hospital sign-in records with Helen's known whereabouts. She was in the city the week your mother was poisoned. Stayed at a hotel 2 miles from the hospital. That's not enough to arrest her." "No, it's not." Ramirez leaned forward. "But Justin, there's something else. I pulled Helen's financial records. 2 days after your mother was hospitalized, Helen withdrew $15,000 in cash. No record of what it was for." "You think she paid someone?" "I think she paid Audrey." Justin's chest went hollow. "What?" "Think about it. Audrey was drowning in debt. Desperate. Helen knew about your relationship easy enough to find out. What if Helen approached Audrey, offered her money to finish what the poison hadn't?" The room tilted. "Audrey's letter said she found a vial of digoxin in your mother's room," Ramirez continued. "What if that wasn't an accident? What if Helen left it there deliberately, made sure Audrey would find it?" Justin could barely breathe. "You're saying Helen manipulated Audrey into trying to kill my mother?" "I'm saying it's possible. Audrey was unstable, broke, terrified of losing you. Helen could have planted the idea, made it seem like mercy instead of murder." Justin stood, pacing. His mind was racing. If this was true, if Helen had poisoned his mother and then manipulated Audrey into finishing the job, then everything he thought he knew was wrong. Audrey wasn't the villain. She was a weapon someone else had used. "I need to talk to her," Justin said. "To who? Helen?" "To Audrey." Ramirez's eyes widened. "Justin, if Helen approached her, if any of this is real, Audrey would know. She'd remember. She's in prison. And even if you could see her, why would she tell you the truth? Because she has nothing left to lose." Justin grabbed his jacket. "And because 3 years ago, I didn't listen when she tried to explain. Maybe I should have. The prison was 2 hours north. Justin drove alone, his hands tight on the wheel, his mind spinning through every conversation he'd had with Audrey before that day. Had there been signs? Moments where she seemed scared instead of calculating? He'd been so sure she was a monster. But what if she'd just been desperate? Used by someone smarter, colder, more patient? The visitation room was stark. White walls, metal tables, guards stationed at every corner. And then she walked in. Audrey looked different. Thinner, hair shorter. No makeup. Prison had stripped away every polished layer she'd hidden behind. She stopped when she saw him, her eyes filling with tears. Justin. He gestured to the chair across from him. She sat slowly, like she couldn't believe this was real. "I got your letter," Justin said. "I didn't think you'd come. I didn't think I would either." He leaned forward. "Tell me about Helen Vance." Audrey's face went pale. "You know who I'm talking about?" "Yes." "Did she pay you?" Audrey's hands trembled on the table. "Not directly." "What does that mean?" She closed her eyes. 2 weeks before what happened, a woman came to my apartment, said she'd heard I was in financial trouble, offered to help. Helen. She didn't give her name. She knew everything, Justin. How much debt I had, that I was about to lose my apartment, that your mother didn't approve of our engagement. Justin's fists clenched. She said your mother was suffering, that the pneumonia was worse than anyone knew, that maybe it would be kinder to let her go peacefully. Audrey's voice cracked. She made it sound like mercy. "Did she give you money?" $10,000. Cash. Said it was to help me get back on my feet, to give us a fresh start after. She couldn't finish. Justin felt sick. I didn't know what she meant at first. Not really. But then I found that vial in your mother's room, and something in my head just broke. I thought she was dying anyway. I thought I was helping. You were killing her. I know. Tears streamed down Audrey's face. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life knowing that. But Justin, I didn't plan it. I was manipulated, used. That doesn't make it okay. I know. They sat in silence. Finally, Justin asked, "Will you testify?" "Against Helen?" Audrey looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. "If it means stopping her, yes." Detective Ramirez moved fast. Within 24 hours, she had a warrant to search Helen Vance's office. Bank records, email correspondence. Anything that could link her to Michelle's poisoning. Justin waited at home with his mother, watching the clock. Michelle was quieter than usual. She sat by the window, staring out at the city, her coffee growing cold in her hands. "Talk to me," Justin said. She turned, and he saw something in her eyes he hadn't seen before. Fear, yes, but also something deeper. Sadness. "I keep thinking about that woman," Michelle said softly. "Helen. She came to my house, smiled at me, complimented my garden, and the whole time she was calculating how to kill me." Justin moved to sit beside her. "She's going to pay for what she did. Will she? Women like that always find a way out." Michelle's voice was tired. "They hire good lawyers, blame other people, walk away clean while everyone else suffers. Not this time." Michelle looked at him. "You sound so sure." "Because I am. I won't let her get away with this." She reached for his hand. 3 years ago, you saved my life by acting on instinct. But Justin, sometimes justice takes more than instinct. Sometimes it takes patience you don't have." He knew what she meant. Every cell in his body wanted to drive to Helen's office, confront her, force a confession. But that wasn't how this worked. Evidence, process, the law. It felt too slow. The call came at noon. Detective Ramirez, her voice tight with controlled fury. "We've got a problem." Justin's stomach dropped. "What happened?" "Helen's lawyer showed up with a cease and desist. Claims we're harassing his client, threatening her business. He's blocking the search warrant. He can't do that. He can tie it up in court for weeks, maybe months." Ramirez exhaled slowly. "And that's not all. Helen just filed a defamation lawsuit against you. Claims you're spreading false accusations that are damaging her reputation." Justin's hand tightened on the phone. "She's trying to intimidate us. She's succeeding. Her lawyer is Thomas Garrett, best defense attorney in the state. If this goes to trial, it's going to get ugly. I don't care. Justin, listen to me. Women like Helen don't play fair. She's got money, connections, and a legal team that will shred anyone who gets in her way. If we're going to take her down, we need to be smarter than her. How? We make her think she's winning. We back off publicly, let her lawyers celebrate their victory, and we build the case quietly where she can't see it. Justin hated it, but he trusted Ramirez. Okay, what do you need from me? Keep your mother safe, stay visible, act like you've given up. Ramirez paused. And whatever you do, don't contact Helen directly. That's exactly what she wants. That night, Sarah found Justin on the terrace, staring at the city lights. Michelle's asleep, she said, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. Finally. Justin didn't respond. Sarah moved closer. You're thinking about going after her yourself? No. Justin. He turned to face her. What if Ramirez is wrong? What if backing off gives Helen time to disappear, to cover her tracks? Then you trust that the detective knows what she's doing. I trusted Audrey. Look how that turned out. Sarah's expression softened. This isn't the same thing, isn't it? I'm supposed to just sit here while the woman who poisoned my mother walks free. You're supposed to let the people who know how to catch her do their job. Sarah stepped closer. Justin, you can't control everything. You can't save everyone by sheer force of will. Sometimes you have to trust the process. The process is too slow. The process is all we have. He wanted to argue, but looking at Sarah steady, patient, refusing to let him spiral, he felt something shift. 3 years ago, he would have charged in, alone, made demands, forced confrontation. But that version of himself had almost gotten his mother killed. Maybe Sarah was right. Maybe trust wasn't weakness. Maybe it was the only way forward. The text came at 3 in the morning. Unknown number. 5 words that made Justin's blood run cold. Stop digging, or she dies. Attached was a photo. Michelle, asleep in his guest room, taken through the window. Someone had been watching them. Someone was inside his building. Justin's hands shook as he dialed 911, but deep down, he already knew. Helen wasn't backing down. She was escalating, and this time, she wasn't going to miss. Police arrived within minutes. 4 officers swept the building, checked every floor, every stairwell, found nothing. Detective Ramirez showed up 20 minutes later, still in sweatpants, her badge clipped over a Georgetown hoodie. She studied the photo on Justin's phone, her jaw tight. Professional, she said. Telephoto lens, taken from the building across the street. Justin looked out the window. Dozens of apartments faced his, hundreds of windows, impossible to know which one. She's hired someone, Ramirez continued. Someone good. Michelle emerged from the guest room, wrapped in Justin's robe, her face pale. What's happening? You're leaving, Justin said. Both of you, right now. Sarah appeared behind Michelle, already dressed. Where are we going? Somewhere Helen can't find you. Within an hour, they were packed. Justin drove them to a hotel 40 miles outside the city, small, quiet, the kind of place that didn't ask questions. He registered under Sarah's name, paid cash, and got them a room on the 3rd floor with no windows facing the street. Stay here, he told them. Don't leave. Don't call anyone. I'll check in every few hours. Michelle gripped his arm. What are you going to do? End this. Justin. Mom, she took a picture of you sleeping, through my window, in my home. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. I'm not waiting for her next move. Sarah pulled him aside. Don't do anything stupid. I won't. Promise me. He looked at her, this woman who'd chosen to stand beside him through all of this, who could have walked away a dozen times but stayed. I promise. He kissed her forehead and left before she could see him cry. Back at his apartment, Justin and Detective Ramirez sat in the dark. We need to draw her out, Ramirez said. How? Give her what she wants. The land. Justin's head snapped up. You want me to sell? I want you to pretend to sell. Set up a meeting. Get her on record, admitting what she did. She'll never confess. Not to you, but maybe to someone she thinks she's won. Ramirez leaned forward. We wire you. You offer the land. Act defeated. Let her gloat. People like Helen can't resist. Justin thought about it. The risk, the chance it could go wrong. But what choice did he have? Set it up. The call came the next morning. Helen Vance's assistant, professional, courteous, scheduling a meeting to discuss the property matter. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock, Helen's office. Justin agreed. When he hung up, his hands were steady for the first time in days. He called Michelle. "How are you holding up?" "Scared, but okay." Her voice was small. "Sarah's taking good care of me." "Good. Stay there. This ends tomorrow." "Justin, be careful. Please." "I will." But they both knew careful wasn't always enough. That night, Justin couldn't sleep. He stood on his terrace, remembering the last time his world had shattered. 3 years ago, hospital room, pillow, the moment everything changed. He'd been so certain then that Audrey was the enemy. He'd been wrong, and now he was about to face the real enemy, a woman who'd poisoned his mother, manipulated a desperate girl into attempted murder, and threatened them from the shadows. A woman who thought money and lawyers made her untouchable. His phone buzzed. "Sarah, I know you're not sleeping. I know you're scared, but you're not alone. Whatever happens tomorrow, we face what comes after together." Justin read it 3 times, then typed back, "I love you." 3 words he hadn't said to anyone since Audrey. 3 words that terrified him more than any threat. Sarah's response came immediately. "I love you too. Now get some rest. You're going to need it." Justin smiled, despite everything. Tomorrow, he'd walk into Helen Vance's office, wearing a wire. Tomorrow, he'd get the confession that would put her away. Tomorrow, he'd finally protect the people he loved. Or die trying. Detective Ramirez taped the wire to Justin's chest at 1:30. "It's voice-activated," she said, adjusting the small device. "Just act natural. Get her talking about the land, about your mother. If she mentions the poisoning, even indirectly, we've got her." Justin buttoned his shirt. "What if she knows? Then we abort." But Helen's arrogant. She thinks she's already won. 2 unmarked cars would be parked outside Helen's building. Ramirez would be monitoring from across the street. If anything went wrong, they'd move in. "You ready?" she asked. Justin nodded, though his heart was hammering. Pinnacle Ridge Holdings occupied the 20th floor of a glass tower in the financial district. Justin stepped off the elevator into a lobby that screamed money. Marble floors, modern art. A receptionist with a practiced smile. "Justin Miller, for Miss Vance. She's expecting you. Conference room 2. He followed her down a corridor, his pulse loud in his ears. The conference room overlooked the city, floor-to-ceiling windows, a table that could seat 20, and at the head of it, Helen Vance. She stood when he entered, grey hair perfectly styled, tailored suit, that same kind smile Michelle had described. "Mr. Miller, thank you for coming." Her handshake was firm, confident. They sat. "I understand you're ready to discuss the property," Helen said, folding her hands on the table. "I am. I'm glad. I know this hasn't been easy. Your mother was quite attached to that land." "She was." Helen's smile widened. "Was?" Justin forced himself to stay calm. "She's reconsidering. Recent events have made her realize it's not worth the trouble." "Recent events?" "The stress. Her health hasn't been good." Helen tilted her head, studying him. "I heard she was ill a few years ago. Pneumonia, wasn't it?" "Yes." "Terrible thing. My mother died of pneumonia." Helen's voice was sympathetic, but her eyes were cold. "Sometimes the body just gives up fighting." Justin's jaw clenched. "My mother's stronger than that." "Of course." Helen opened a folder. "I'm prepared to offer $5 million for the 40 acres, well above market value. Your mother would be very comfortable." "That's generous." "I believe in fair deals, Mr. Miller. Everyone should benefit." Justin leaned forward. "Even if it means people get hurt along the way?" Helen's smile didn't waver. "I'm not sure what you mean. I mean the woman who visited my mother in the hospital 3 years ago, the one who signed in as a—" "Miller." The temperature in the room dropped. Helen set down her pen. "That's a serious accusation." "Is it an accusation if it's true?" "I think you're confused. Grief can do that. Make us see patterns that aren't there. Someone poisoned my mother. Someone tried to suffocate her. Your fiancée, if I remember correctly. She's in prison for it. Because you paid her." Helen laughed light, dismissive. "Mr. Miller, I understand you're protective of your mother, but you're grasping at straws. I'm a businesswoman. I make deals. I don't commit crimes. Then you won't mind the police investigating." "They already did. Found nothing." Helen stood. "Now, if you're not here to discuss the land seriously, I think we're done." Justin stayed seated. "You made one mistake." "Oh?" "Audrey kept the cash you gave her. $10,000, sequential bills, and she's willing to testify where it came from. Helen's face went still. The police are pulling your bank records right now, Justin continued. They'll match the withdrawal, and once they do, everything unravels. The poison, the hospital visits, all of it. Helen walked to the window, her back to him. When she spoke, her voice was different, colder. Your mother's land is the last piece of $100 million project. I've invested everything, loans I can't repay without it, my entire life's work. So you tried to kill her? I tried to solve a problem. Helen turned, and the mask was gone. She was old, sick. What was a few more months? A year? I was simply accelerating the inevitable. Justin's blood ran cold. But she didn't die, Helen continued. And that girl Audrey, she was supposed to finish it quietly. Instead, she panicked, made a scene, got herself arrested. You manipulated her. I gave her an opportunity. She took it. Helen's eyes were ice. Just like you're taking this opportunity right now. $5 million, Justin. Your mother lives comfortably. I get my land. Everyone wins. Except you go to prison. Helen smiled. You think you've won because you're wearing a wire? I've had this room swept for surveillance every morning for 3 years. That device under your shirt stopped transmitting the moment you walked in. Justin's heart stopped. My security is thorough, Helen said softly. They jammed the signal. Everything you think you recorded? Static. She moved toward the door. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to sell me that land, and you're going to keep your mouth shut. Because if you don't, if you continue this crusade, I'll finish what I started. Your mother, that girlfriend of yours, anyone you care about. You're threatening me. I'm promising you. Helen opened the door. You have 48 hours. After that, I stop being patient. She walked out. Justin sat frozen, his mind racing. The wire was dead. No confession, no evidence. Just a threat he couldn't prove. Justin walked out of that building with his hands shaking and his mind clear. Detective Ramirez was waiting in the surveillance van, her face grim. The wire went dead the second you walked in. She jammed it. I know. Justin, I'm sorry. We've got nothing. He pulled out his phone. Actually, we do. Ramirez looked at him. You told me to act natural, Justin said. So I brought my phone, left it recording in my pocket the whole time. He played it back. Helen's voice, crystal clear. I tried to solve a problem. She was old, sick. I was simply accelerating the inevitable. And then, that girl Audrey, she was supposed to finish it, quietly. Ramirez's eyes widened. You got her. Every word. Within an hour, patrol cars surrounded Pinnacle Ridge Holdings. Helen Vance was arrested in her office, her lawyer already on the phone, her face pale with fury. This is entrapment, she screamed as they cuffed her. You'll never make this stick. But Justin knew they would, because Helen's arrogance had made her careless, and carelessness left trails. 3 months later, Helen Vance pled guilty to attempted murder, conspiracy, and witness tampering. 25 years, no parole. Audrey's sentence was reduced to 4 years, with time served. She'd cooperate fully, testify against Helen, and get the psychiatric help she should have received from the beginning. Justin visited her one last time before she was transferred to a minimum security facility. Thank you, Audrey said quietly, for believing me. Finally, I should have listened 3 years ago. You weren't ready. Neither was I. She paused. I heard you're getting married. Justin nodded. Sarah had said yes 2 weeks ago. Small ceremony. Just family. She's lucky, Audrey said. I'm the lucky one. Take care of your mum, Justin. She's a good woman. I wish I'd seen that sooner. They said goodbye. Not with forgiveness exactly, but with something like understanding. Sometimes broken people do terrible things, and sometimes terrible things lead to healing no one expected. The wedding was in Michelle's garden. 20 people, evening light. Sarah in a simple white dress that made Justin's breath catch. Michelle stood beside him, healthy and strong, tears streaming down her face. You ready? She whispered. Terrified. Good. That means it's real. When Sarah reached him, when he took her hands and looked into her eyes, Justin felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because everything was perfect, not because the past didn't hurt, but because he'd learned something these 3 years had taught him. Love isn't about certainty. It's about choosing someone, even when you're scared, trusting even when you've been betrayed, showing up even when it's easier to run. His mother had shown him that his whole life, and now Sarah was teaching him to believe it again. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." They kissed, and in that moment, surrounded by people who'd fought beside them, Justin understood what his mother had been trying to tell him all along. True wealth isn't what you build. It's who stands with you when everything falls apart. That night, Justin and Michelle sat on his terrace, the city glowing below them. "You saved me twice," Michelle said softly. "Once in that hospital room, once by not giving up when everyone told you to. You saved me first. Every day of my life." She smiled. "That's what mothers do, and that's what sons do too." They sat in comfortable silence, watching lights flicker on across the city. Somewhere out there, Helen was in a cell. Audrey was getting help, and his father was living quietly with his regrets. But here, right here, there was healing. "You know what I realized?" Justin said. "God gave me that instinct 3 years ago, that pull to come back to the hospital, and he gave it to me again when I recorded Helen on my phone." Michelle squeezed his hand. "Sometimes grace shows up as gut feelings, and sometimes it shows up as second chances, or both. Or both. If this story touched something deep in you, if it reminded you that even broken people can heal, that justice sometimes takes time, and that the people who love you are worth fighting for, please like, share, and subscribe to Elevated Heart Stories. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to choose between justice and revenge? Because maybe this story found you for a reason. In the golden evening light, mother and son sat together, knowing that some battles are worth fighting, some people are worth protecting, and some loves are worth trusting, even when you're terrified. Justin had built an empire once, but sitting here with his mother, with Sarah inside making tea, with a future that finally felt possible. This was the only empire that mattered, and he'd spend the rest of his life protecting it,